Good afternoon and hello everyone. My name is Isa. I am part of the digital marketing team at DGX and I will be your host for today's webinar. Before we begin, do check in using our link in the description box below or in the live chat. You can also scan the QR code on the screen. We will be sending you an exclusive ebook that has steps to help digitalize your business. A quick introduction to DGX before we begin. DGX is Digi's venture builder arm. Our focus is to help Malaysian companies of all sizes solve problems by digitalizing their operations through our products, Alt HR, Omni Hotline, and iFleet. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Omni Hotline is a business landline on your smartphone. It's basically a virtual phone system that allows you to run your business efficiently while on the move and without being tied to a desk phone. Today's webinar is organized in conjunction with MDEC's 100 Go Digital program. And similar to our other webinars, today's webinar is also part of Digi's Business Continuity Digitalization, or in short, BCD initiative. Our topic today will be accelerating digitalization during COVID-19, where SMEs will share the benefits of adopting digital technology in their business operations, experiences, and also advice for SMEs to survive in this fast-changing economic landscape due to COVID-19. Today, we not only have one, but three special guests with us. And before we start, allow me to introduce our three speakers. So first up, we have Howie Cheng, who is the founder and CEO of Forward School, a revolutionary technology and future skills school in Malaysia. At Forward School, he leads the growth and development of the company with the goal of building sustainable talent pipelines for businesses. Having spent the formative years of his career in Singapore, he has a long experience in product management, user experience, and digital business transformation in various industries. Howie also had stints with startups of all kinds, where he delved into the dynamic intersection of design, business, and technology. Next, we have Christine Bong, who is the managing director and co-founder of who is the managing director and co-founder of Brick House together with her husband, Datuk Sharon Hanifa. What started as a humble campus cafe in 2014, nestled within the grounds of Masa University, Brick House Group has quickly developed into KL's premier events and catering company with its own venue spaces. Today, there are 6 establishments under the Brick House family, including 2 cafes, Pokok KL and Lake House, 2 convenience stores, House University Grocer, and an exclusive event space called The Grounds. Last but not least, we have Dylan Damsma. With several years of startup experience in Estonia and San Francisco, Dylan came back to Malaysia as a tech entrepreneur and started Konto, a bookkeeping software for companies using cryptocurrency. And having gone through the tedious process of starting a company in Malaysia, he pivoted his business into what is known today as Founding Bird, a digital company secretary to simplify the processes of starting, running, and governing a company so that entrepreneurs can focus on the big picture of their businesses. All right, let's welcome our 3 speakers on the screen, please. All right, hi everyone.
Hello.
Okay,
Hi.
we are really glad to have you here with us today. To show us, your tips and tricks and also your experiences during this pandemic with each of your businesses. So without further ado, let's get started. So before we begin with the actual questions, could each of you share a brief introduction of your company and your nature of business? So we'll start with Howie from Forward School.
Sure. Hi everyone. My name is Howie. I'm the founder and CEO of Forward School. Basically, we are here to create the next generation of tech talent. We do this by providing our students with real in-demand employability skills, with a syllabus that we co-create with seasoned industry practitioners. And at the end of it, we also do link you to exciting global tech career pathways.
Awesome. Thanks, Howie. Okay, moving on. Let's have Christine from Brick House.
Hi guys. Hi, I'm Christine, and Brick House was founded together with my husband, Datuk Sharon, sometime in 2014. We started out by running cafes inside universities such as MMU Cyberjaya, Nottingham University, and Masa University. So some of you have seen me around. However, 2 years into the business, we realized that it was not viable. University businesses are tough, too many holidays, and we then pivoted. So currently, our existing verticals for the last 4 years are firstly F&B cafes such as Pokok KL, Dawan KL, and secondly would be events, catering, as well as venue rental such as The Grounds. So these are interesting times.
Okay, awesome. All right. And Dylan from
Yeah, hi
Founding
everyone.
Bird?
I'm Dylan, the CEO at Founding Bird. At Founding Bird, what we do is we help people incorporate their Sendiri Bahat through a digital process. So, unlike you previously may have to go to your COSAC's office or run to SSM, now you can do everything online, which has been quite a convenience during the lockdown period and the MCO, I guess. Thereby, we are focusing on how companies can improve their governance and their compliance. Think about voting on board resolutions, maintaining all their statutory compliance, and build software for company secretary firms to manage their clients and their compliance as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the brief introductions to your companies. All right. So we've gone through several phases of, MCO, RMCO, CMCO since March this year and even until now. What was your experience like, and has your business been impacted, whether it's positively or negatively? Kristen, how about we start with you?
Okay, so F&B and events is generally not very tech-based. It's very personal, and you got to be there in person, present. And COVID and MCO, CMCO have not helped with the situation. So obviously, F&B has been impacted severely, especially during the first MCO lockdown from March. What happened was that we had 2 days. I think the government announced on Monday, and by Wednesday we had to cease dine-ins, and that was really tough because some of you who have been to Pokok KL know that it's an Instagrammable cafe. So people come to dine in to enjoy the surroundings, and obviously you can't do that from home. But so for us, the first MCO was extremely negative. We had to go through a lot of pivots just to ensure sustainability of the company. And whereas the second CMCO, when it started somewhere in June, that was really interesting. It was like everyone was let out of the jail, and people just came flooding back to the cafe, even though it was CMCO, and we had to practice a lot of safety measures, etc. However, our business picked up to double what it was, and it was extremely positive in terms of revenue. We had really grown, but having that kind of crowd brought about a different set of problems. So we're talking about insufficient space, insufficient manpower, extremely long queue. So from an hour queue, it has now become a 3-hour queue, and we had to deal with a lot of phone calls. People were asking, "What's your operation hours? What's your SOPs?" And yeah, so different problems, but we dealt with them.
Okay, awesome. All right. Now, how about you, Dylan? How was Founding Bird throughout the entire, process of CMCO, MCO, RMCO? How was it for your company?
Yeah, it was quite interesting actually because we essentially do digital company secretaries. So our entire focus of our company is digitalizing the processes of incorporation and governing your company. So our company only been started the end of 2019. We just built our software, we built our MVPs, and start getting customers since December. And some people incorporated with us, but they were still very much used to the traditional model. And of course, then we all know what happened. We had the lockdown, and the entire Malaysia basically had to work from home. And so also that meant that the government services such as SSM were also ceasing operations for a while. So for 2 weeks, we weren't able to incorporate any company. And basically that gave us a little bit of time to figure out how we're all going to work from home and work with the banks and try to figure out the SOPs internally for managing our clientele. But then when SSM reopened, we were one of the only few company secretaries in Malaysia that was able to operate because we had this digital first approach. And from then our numbers have been growing since. So I would say we were in a way lucky that the MCO helped our business. But working from home has its own challenges as well. So yeah.
All right, thanks, Dylan. So far with Dylan and Christine, fortunately, their businesses have impacted quite positively from the MCO. How about you, Howie? How is it like for Forward School?
Yeah, I guess the business is impacted for sure, both positively as well as negatively, right? On the positive side, I guess internally, it has definitely sparked a wave of innovation. It has definitely speed some of the things up in which that we already have in mind. So, for example, during the lockdown, we released the virtual classroom. Basically, it's a month-long COVID-19 initiative that we run for the entire month of April, right? Where we release one free webinar per day. It's online live, right, to make tech skills accessible during the tough period that we are all facing. And happy to say that we have benefited over 1,000 attendees from different parts of Southeast Asia. And through this process, obviously the positive side of it is we learn so much, right? From organizing almost 21 days of live training online. Another positive side to it is, we had a quick turnaround by implementing remote learning. Our first, 16-week data science bootcamp was forced to, be held fully online. And yet we are happy to say that we remain the quality of the experience. We have learned a lot. We have implemented certain experience that we think it's good for our students, and all of our alumni graduated successfully. On the negative side, obviously, campus tours. As a new school, we depend quite heavily on physical events. To introduce people to our school. So when it comes to campus tours and physical education fairs, basically went out the window. Most of our on-site activities, projects planned were paused when we depended on them to recruit students, like what I've mentioned. But I think, with that experience, we have also moved and improved on our digital marketing, and we are less reliant now on physical events.
All right, thank you. Okay, so what did you do differently to sustain your business? Did you use or introduce any new digital tools or solutions? And was it actually effective with helping you cope with the pandemic? Dylan, how about we start with you?
Yeah, I think the main thing for us was that we had to rely more heavily on task management tools and online communication tools, such as we internally use Telegram, and we use Trello very heavily. So you might be familiar with company secretary work, or many of the attendees are, as if they're entrepreneurs. Essentially, we would have to do a lot of process-oriented work, particular paperwork or particular documents need to be done, and they're very standardized processes. So what we did is we have a big Trello board for our customer operations, and each process has its own specific ticket that has a checklist in there, and basically the entire team communicates around those particular tickets and checklists. To make sure that everything keeps on track and everyone knows what everyone is working on, as well as what is the status of each customer request. I think that process took us a little bit of refining in beginning stages of the lockdown, and took a lot of effort to get right. But the heavy reliance on that and the asynchronous communication that we have through that really helps our team operate from home. I think one other thing is, one of our main communication channels with our customers is WhatsApp. And obviously, when you have a number out there that people can WhatsApp, they would also naturally call it. And this is where we made use of Omni so that we can distribute the call over multiple people, even though they are at home. If one person doesn't pick up the phone because they're having lunch, because we can't see that, then automatically it will ring the phone of the next person, for example. And that way we have, a landline number on WhatsApp, and yet, able to answer the customer call. So that's how we have used Omni. And, the core of our business, again, is digitalization of the incorporation process. So electronic signatures and eKYC were already tools that we were using even before the MCO, but obviously have been integral to being able to resume our operations.
All right, thank you so much, Dylan. Now moving on, how about you, Christine? What was your experience like, and did you introduce any new tools for your business?
Okay, so like we mentioned, the first MCO, by and large, we had to pivot very fast and very Uh, I would say it's quite a shift of a business. So we went into groceries. From F&B and from events, we actually shifted into groceries. And it wasn't because we were smart or had foresight. It was just simply because we received a new batch of goods. We have a standing order, so every Wednesday, fresh vegetables and fruits arrive, and we can't get rid of it or we can't stop the order because I think announcement was made on Monday, and yeah, you just got to take it. So on top of that, there were two weddings that we had to cancel that particular weekend, and so there were also a lot of other fresh ingredients that arrived. And what happened was that we put everything online. And at the time, StoreHub, our POS provider, actually came up with a solution called Beepit. And it's basically an app where you can place your orders and they will arrange for delivery riders for you. And you can actually receive groceries within an hour. So when we entered the market, it was at a really opportune time where Tesco was fully booked for like 2 to 3 weeks, and there was like Happy Fresh and everyone else who was also equally booked for I think about a week or so. So when we came in and we offered on-demand grocery deliveries, it became a instant hit, and we did pretty well. So aside from that, the team also rallied really hard to get into GrabFood and Foodpanda. So prior to this, we were completely not on e-commerce because we couldn't handle the volume. But due to COVID, we had to re-explore our business solutions, relook into how we do things. And that was just the first part. So the second part, of course, was our office. We still run from home. We still have procurement teams, we have accounts teams, HR, etc. But that's the part where the team has been relatively young, so we've constantly digitalized across the last 4 years, and we use simple tools like Google Sheets, as Dylan mentioned, Trello boards. Trello boards are our friends. We love them. It really helps to plan many different activities across different teams. So we've got like graphic design teams, etc. You've got like events team, and everyone does a different portfolio, but they sort of still integrate. So it helps all teams to manage a workflow. We transfer cards onto boards where people collaborate. So it was very efficient in helping us to actually migrate customers or shift customers through the process. Even though we were not available for them face to face, we could still get a lot of work done from home. Even our accounting software was migrated to QuickBooks. This was about also 4 years ago, and that really helped us to automate a lot of stuff. Meaning, for example, if purchasing puts in a purchase order on QuickBooks, accounts then receives when we receive the PO and then the invoice, accounts just processes the payment, and it's really simple. And similarly, also events raises the quotations and invoicing all on QuickBooks, and our accounts just processes that. So we have already been utilizing quite a few of these tools. So when we pivoted to work from home, it was not that difficult. It was quite manageable. Of course, the income doesn't really reflect that, but we survived it.
All right. Okay. Thank you. And Howie from Forward School, what did you do differently to sustain your business?
Yeah, to keep our business activities running, and more importantly, to keep the team intact, we embrace a couple of digital tools. We have to. We use digital tools such as Zoom, where it enables us to do online webinars and keep the engagement with our audience and students going. And besides Zoom, we have our own in-house learning management system as well, where that really comes in handy because that allowed us to keep the classes going, because all the content and all the syllabus are all online, right? And we are also a big fan of Slack. So the entire team uses Slack to keep our team communications intact. And one thing that we realized during the MCO was that everyone just communicated much more intentionally. Because online you have to type. So when you have to type, you'll have to be a bit more succinct and intentional. And out of it, we really realized that the team really grew closer much together, and we spent a lot of time on Slack, and of course not forgetting Omni, where it keeps our business accessible to parents and our students, as some prefer to call in, and we continue to have that accessibility to our potential clients. It also gives us some level of credibility, right? Because instead of using our own personal numbers, and we do not need to be in the office. All of us are from home, so we, able to keep our landline numbers as well. Of course, social media played a huge part too, as it was probably one of the only ways for us to keep the brand engagement going. So we had to, take a lot of things to our social media since everyone is at home. So yeah.
All right, thanks, Howie. Okay, so both Howie and Dylan have mentioned, like how they use Omni Hotline. We're quite curious to know, like how Christine uses Omni Hotline as well. So, how have you managed to utilize that solution for your business since the
Okay,
MCO? Yeah.
so Omni is heavily relied on by our cafe, Pokok KL. Um, on a weekday, I'm pausing because it's quite a sheer volume. On a weekday, we get about 30 to 40 phone calls. And on a weekend, we receive about 70 to 90 phone calls. And this was even before Omni came about. So what happened was one day, I was having a meeting with my friend, and all of a sudden my phone just rings. And this happens, I think, about 10 times across the course of a half an hour meeting. And he goes, "Have you heard of Omni?" I'm like, "No, what's that?" So he introduced Omni, and let's just say it's a lifesaver, because being a very hands-on person, every business that we develop, I have always put my own phone number so that I answer every single call. And obviously, when it gets to a point where you have 30 to 100 calls a day and they call you at all times of the day, no one cares if you're sleeping at 7 a.m., they just call you anyway. And it goes on until 3 a.m. in the morning. So Omni has definitely helped us a lot by answering all those queries and all those typical FAQs, because you can pre-record all these conversations. And especially during CMCO, when customers started coming back in droves, and the calls just don't stop, it has really helped us to let them know what timings are, what our operational hours are, what our SOPs are, as well as redirect them to events PICs if they're looking to book, for example, our event space or etc. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So now that all of you have mentioned solutions like Slack and Trello and even Omni Hotline, how have these solutions prepared you for the new normal? And do you see yourself still using these solutions even when things hopefully get back to normal and everybody can get back to the office? So Dylan, how about we start with you?
Yeah, I mean, everything we're using right now to work from home, it wouldn't change when we're working from the office. I think the only thing that changes really is the communication and the dispatching of documents that we do, because we still have to dispatch, unfortunately, because of banks, dispatch a lot of physical documents, which becomes much harder to coordinate when you're all working from home. However, I think apart from that, all the tools that we use, including Trello, Omni, Telegram for chat, those are definitely keepers. We will keep using them in our business, simply because it also gives us the flexibility. You see, we're able to go out again until 2 a.m. and everyone's able to go to the office. And now we're back to possibly a new announcement of stricter rules. So it is a year without a lot of uncertainty, and therefore I think that we should think of a work from home principle first. Even though we in our team prefer to work from office because we think personally it's more efficient in our case, we have to just accept the fact that we're going to be forced to work from home again, and therefore we have to have the processes in place and the infrastructure in place to be able to do so.
All right. Okay. How about you, Howie? How have these solutions prepared you for the new normal?
Yeah, I have to agree and concur with Dylan. I share much of the points similarly like Dylan, and all the tools that we are currently doing, we are currently using. We will continue to use them regardless, whether we are in office or from home. And I would like to also encourage everyone to have a digital first approach as well. I think it will definitely help in the next CMCO or MCO, touch wood. But I guess it's really about the digital lifestyle for us as a team. We are already using some of these tools even before MCO, and it helps. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Howie. Okay, and Christine, how have these solutions prepared you for the new normal?
Well, as mentioned, a lot of these solutions were already adopted pre-COVID, and during the MCO and CMCO, it has helped us even more because there's such a heavy reliance on it now. Definitely, even if when we exit out of COVID, when a vaccine does come about, there will still be that reliance, and it has helped us to automate so much processes. It has cut down on human error of forgetting files or forgetting clients. It has helped us to reduce man hours on things which could be automated. So it frees up your time to do more brain work, or use your brain more productively, right? And it makes us more competitive. So we have been doing a little bit of research because we're doing a secret project. But having spoken to a lot of our peers in the events industry, we realize that the events industry is really backward, and a lot of them use Excel sheets and phone calls and notebooks, and that's how they plan their work. And I don't know how they do it, because if you were to ask me to still rely on that 10 years ago with a group of 15 people managing events, I will go crazy. So right now, at this point, I would say that definitely digitalization is here to stay. And for us to remain competitive and relevant, we have to keep progressing with the times.
Okay.
I think, sorry, if I may make a point, I think
Yeah.
the whole digitalization trend it's not so much because we're forced to work from home, but it's more because it just increases the efficiency and allows us to work on things which are more important, like a human interaction with the client, rather than spending 5 hours on our accounting and bookkeeping records. And the fact that it allows us to work from home and do that from home is a great benefit, especially during this time.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, now that we've talked a little bit about the businesses and how each of your businesses have pivoted to, adapt to the current situation, now how have your customers' behaviors changed? And how are you addressing these changes and the demand of your customers now? So, Howie, we can start with you.
Yeah, I felt that our audience, specifically our learners, they started to embrace, and definitely much more open to the concept of remote learning. Previously, distance, do in one way or another, it's an obstacle to many when it comes to attending events, workshops. But now, obviously, like right now, right, it's much more acceptable, and everyone is very much aware of the tools that you can use, and all of them know how to operate Zoom, for example. So thanks to all these tools and technology in general, all of these are no longer an issue. And we can connect online, and we can attend classes. For us, is our students are able to attend the classes online. So for Forward School, such changes is indeed an enabler for us to reach out to a much wider audience by going what we call an online live, right? It's not pre-recorded, because we still believe in the face-to-face approach. But if we can't do face-to-face, physical face-to-face, then we'll be doing online live. Just basically just like us right now. So it gives us the opportunity, to share why we do what we do, and to an global audience, and of course, acting on our mission to make tech education accessible.
Okay, all right. And how about you, Christine? How have these, solutions prepared you, and what are your thoughts on how your customers' behaviors are changing throughout this MCO and CMCO period?
For us, we're not as lucky as Howie. Nobody wants to get married online. So we have tried pitching micro weddings, virtual weddings, and surprisingly, Malaysians just don't want it. Out of 100 customers that we spoke to, only one was interested in broadcasting a virtual wedding back home. To her friends and family overseas. Everyone else wants to have it in person. They want their 400 pax wedding. They want everyone to be present. They want it to be expensive. But aside from that, what we have found is that, of course, with consumer spending, it's a huge shift from discretionary spending of dining out and lavish weddings, and they're all looking for value goods or essential goods and services. So with that kind of shift, it has impacted us quite badly. And even with the anticipation that with MCO being lifted or CMCO being lifted, eventually consumption out of home will pick up and business will pick up, but it's highly unlikely that we would be able to cover the cost of all our losses so far this year. And with the current economic recession looming, F&B and events don't bode well for the next year to come. So that's where we are right now with regards to how consumers are behaving to us. However, there were key things that we addressed really quickly, which are like seeking alternative channels of distribution, or the way that we conduct business, which is contactless, going for e-commerce like GrabFood, Foodpanda, etc. And then secondly, the other thing was safeguarding the safety and security of our people during this COVID. So as we kept our operations running after throughout this whole MCO, because we were under essential goods and services, and eventually we reopened for CMCO, the first thing that I told everyone is you got to look after yourselves first, because we're having like 500, 600 people coming in every day, on a weekend 1,000. How do you guarantee that you are safe? So that is something that I feel that if workplaces want to reopen, their HRs have to, impose very strict regulations and SOPs on their team. Yeah. And next would be managing working capital and ensuring access to cash in a prolonged period of disruption. A lot of businesses don't think about it, but by the time you think about it, it might be too late. So start now, start small, prepare overdraft facilities, prepare all kinds of facilities, renegotiate your tenancy contracts, etc. You can do very small steps to create a very big impact to save your business. And lastly would be managing ongoing relationships with all our suppliers. So for us, we reached out to every single person. We talked about credit terms, increase credit limits for most of them, asked for longer periods to repay our monthly commitments. Yeah, and that has helped us to sort of like juggle everything through this whole period.
All right, thanks, Christine. And how about you, Dylan? Have your customers' behaviors changed since the pandemic happened?
I mean, we got most of our customers, first customers during the pandemic itself, so can't really speak about how they have changed. But a general trend that I have been observing is, I think a lot more people are accepting trying digital solutions now, and therefore where traditionally maybe someone has opted to go for what they're comfortable with. So for example, going through their normal call SAC or going to the bank branch themselves, what you find is that they're now willing to try and explore electronic KYC, that they are willing to more easily sign a document digitally instead of signing it physically and scanning it back. I think there has been a realization where a lot of our customers, as well as partners, as well as stakeholders in our business industry, have realized that, hey, okay, we kind of got into this situation and we weren't quite prepared for it. So now let us try all the things and see how they work, and see what can work for our business in the future, when it happens again. And so what we have observed is that banks, for example, are much more willing to discuss the digitalization of opening of accounts, that customers are helping their parents or even older people who maybe have never done something like that before are now willing to try electronic KYC. So that is the main observation. Now, personally, I do not really like the term new normal, because I think the world isn't changing. I think it's just, there was a event which was a realization for a lot of people that they have to digitize because it gives them the flexibility. But I think the risk also is that we focus too much on digitalization and forget the human aspects of business. So I think that shouldn't be forgotten as well. I think, in fact, for us, the recent realization for me has been that we need to focus more on the human aspect, even more during these times where we all work from home. I think because people are deprived of human interaction. So during the MCO, during the lockdown, I was on calls way more often than I was, during these times where we were all able to go to the office. And literally, we would just have a conversation for 2 hours with a customer, simply because we both haven't had anyone to interact with for the entire day, right? And so I feel that people are now even more keen on human interaction, despite the fact that we are forced to work from home. So I think there's two things. Digitalization is important, and people are willing to try that, are way more comfortable with it now, and that's great. And so using the technology to improve your internal processes or to become more efficient or to provide a better customer experience is absolutely fantastic. And at the same time, I think we should not forget to focus on the human aspect of business.
All right, thank you, Dylan. Okay, so I think echoing from all three of you, we can agree that digitalization for SMEs is very important. So what advice would you give to all the audiences and the SME owners and SME employees to start digitalizing? So maybe Howie, we can start with you. Any advice you would share?
Yeah, I guess the pandemic and with the pandemic and the advent of technology, it's no question that we now live in the digital first world. Everything is pretty much digital, from how we hail our Grab to how we communicate to our friends, family, our partners, our business partners, via WhatsApp, via Telegram, or even to performing monetary transactions, right? Like our banking facilities and services are all now done digitally. That's it. SMEs to go digital is no longer optional. If they wish to stay competitive and relevant in the digital economy. In fact, it should be a priority. Else they will only be left behind. But of course, to go digital for the right reasons, right? Not just because it's the most trendy thing to do. And if you look at it, when it comes to digitization and tools, I think that's the easy part of things. You just need to subscribe to a service and you can start using, right? But I think one of the biggest challenge really is the lack of the right digital mindset, right? Like what I've mentioned, you can just implement tech solutions. There's no shortage of it. But digitization is not just all about technology. It's about changing the way you and I work. Essentially, it is a digital mindset is basically a growth mindset. We have to be comfortable of change. So it might feel daunting for those of you who don't know where to start. But my advice is really to begin with the end in mind. Before you do anything to do with technology, think about what you want to achieve, right? And then you think about how you can use technology to help you solve key challenges. Then the rest will follow.
Okay, great. Thanks, Howie. Okay, how about you, Christine? What advice would you give to our fellow SMEs who are watching?
Start today. Don't procrastinate. I know it's like what Howie was saying, it's extremely daunting. Because our process to digitalization started 4 years ago. And I will always remember when we had to migrate 2 years of Excel accounting data into QuickBooks. And I think we wanted to die. But we pulled through. It took us about 3 to 4 months. My accounts girl cried, I think, about 10 times. And it was a really long process. But if you can compartmentalize and do it in stages and just plan it out slowly, you will be able to get there. And as Howie says, you're looking with the end in mind, right? So most importantly, you can't be letting your team take charge of it by themselves. As an owner or a co-founder or a founder, you have to be the person present. You have to personally want to be involved and be the wheels of change. So it starts from you. And if you're willing to take that challenge and you're willing to have the sleepless nights just for a couple of months, it will pay off. And digital transformation is the key for surviving this current pandemic and future crisis that might come along. So yeah, we just need to rethink and redesign our business with the focus of how to leverage on social media, on mobile connectivity, cloud solutions, data analytics, and just incorporate these tools into our business models. And yeah, with that, I think we should be able to write out most things.
Okay, thanks a lot, Christine. And Dylan, how about you? Any advice for our SMEs?
Yeah, I think hopping on the bandwagon with Christine and Howie, I think the part where too many SMEs or too many people, it's daunting because they don't understand technology or they don't know what are all the different solutions out there. Is definitely a real aspect of the hurdle of digitalization. But I think if you need to figure out a starting point, it's not so much about the digitalization that you should focus on. You shouldn't focus on the solutions that are out there, more about where in your business are the points of friction. For example, we found that it's hard to communicate the different processes of company secretarial tasks to the rest of the team and then update that with the customers as well. So what our customer operations team or COSAC team did is they made checklists for all the various processes in Trello cards. And so when we create a card from Trello, we create it from that template. And it was solving a very specific pain point in our business. For example, another thing is it takes a lot of time to prepare a particular document and then add on all the fields for allowing businesses to sign and pre-fill the document in DocuSign or HelloSign, these various tools that are out there, right? And so that's the problem. So okay, that takes us 2-3 hours per document, maybe. I'm exaggerating here a little bit, but okay, focus on that specific problem and see how we can solve that. So I think it's really about finding where are the points of friction, where are the points of inefficiency within your business and within the customer experience that you provide to the customer, and focusing on finding the solutions to that, and not necessarily being distracted by all the fancy solutions that are out there. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much to all three of you for a very insightful session. There were a lot of great takeaways and definitely some action items that SMEs can start taking on their journey towards digitalization. So we have now reached the Q&A session. I'm sure viewers have some burning questions for Howie, Dylan, and Christine after listening to them. Feel free to post your questions in the live chat. We'll pause for about 10 seconds for you to write your questions down while we prepare. So, yep. Okay, looks like we have one question here, and it is from David Tan. For someone in F&B biz, how did Brickhouse manage to survive throughout all the MCOs when the margins are so low? We don't have much cash to digitalize. Okay, Christine?
You feel me. Yeah, so we were lucky and unlucky in a way. We had some cash reserves that was meant for a new restaurant called The Manor, and we had to scrap all our plans. We believe it's God's way of telling us that it wasn't meant to be. But literally, that cash reserves saved us through the first MCO. Aside from that, a lot of it was, like I mentioned earlier, how do you manage your suppliers? How do you actually renegotiate terms with them? A lot of them are willing to help if you have had a good relationship with them. Secondly, talk to your landlords, reduce rentals or defer rentals. Most of them would be understanding. Of course, there were like car loan moratoriums, and we took advantage of all of them. But you know what? It doesn't take much cash to digitalize. And I think that's something that people need to be aware of. Like Trello, essentially it's free if you know how to play within the parameters. We spend a lot of money on tools like Zapier and Typeform. We need them, and because we have the kind of volume, we get about 10 requests per day for our events. That's quite a lot. So if you multiply, that's 300 per month, and we still have to manage all those every single day. So we always play within the rules, and we try and mitigate costs. We cut where we can, and we don't ever, like when we find Trello, we don't just stop there and say, hey, is Trello the best solution? We compare them with like Pipedrive, Salesforce, etc., and we come up with our own. You have to understand what's out there. You need to study, and then you need to make that call. But you know what, guys? There are a lot of funds out there and grants out there for digitalization from banks, from the government. You just need to sit down, spend some time, and just go explore. You can. I think there are funds where they actually compensate you 50% of your expenditure, up to a maximum of 5,000 for, I think, majority of the banks. But there are other solutions from SME, etc., that give you more funding. So yeah, so don't be lazy. Get off your bum and go start working.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, Howie and Dylan, anything to add on to this if you like? All good?
No, I think personally, we have also been looking more into things like invoice factoring and loans with companies like funding societies, and also how that can potentially help our customers, since we are, having multiple hundreds of clients that run their own scenario in Bahat, and see how maybe they can make use of such solutions to help them save their business. But I think and I think Christine did that better in that situation. We started a little bit too late, so I think that's definitely good advice to heed. That make sure that you already start thinking about this when it's not necessary, so that you are ready when it is necessary. We only started thinking about it when it became critical in a way. Fortunately, we were able to survive, and we're all good, and we're almost break even to this point, because we've bootstrapped our business throughout the year, despite the MCO, and it would have been of good help though if we had known beforehand of these various solutions and have prepared it beforehand.
Okay, great. Okay, next up we have a question from Tan. Based on your observation, what do you think about the digital adoption rate in Malaysia, and how has your company been collaborating with other companies to target this crowd? Maybe I'll direct this question to Howie first. Oh, Howie, I think you're on mute.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. I hope I get this question right. In terms of digital adoption rate, I would say that I think most of us live in city. I think there's no issue in the cities, right? But I think Malaysia is big, and we have a lot of the suburbs as well as the desa. So I think the adoption rate there definitely can be improved, and I think this has a lot to do with the infrastructure as well, right? And the availability of internet connections and reliable internet connections. In terms of us collaborating with other companies, I would say that through the MCO, we definitely do collaborate with many more companies, and we realize that we will have to collaborate in order to survive. And we can see a lot of this also happening in the F&B sector, right? A lot of people collaborating with one another, whether it's an event based with an F&B, and so on and so forth. So for us here at Forward School, we are starting to collaborate with universities. We don't see ourselves as a school that's going to be replacing universities. In fact, we see ourselves as complementary. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Dylan or Christine, do you want to add on to this? Okay,
I don't
all good.
have much comments. I think
All
for
right.
us,
Okay.
we'll try help our customers in the future, but at this point, we're not at that stage yet.
Awesome. Okay, our next question is from Justin Lee. Did you hire someone to take charge of the digital transformation effort, or self-taught? Where would be a good start to pick it up? Okay, maybe Dylan, would you like to take this?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been quite lucky because I have, been in tech and doing web development and doing digital marketing and all of those things since I was younger. Starting at the age of 15, I was building websites for local retail shops in my hometown back in the Netherlands. So for me, it's mostly, my responsibility within the company to focus on this part. I'm the one who, usually thinks of how to digitalize a particular process or how to, use technology to make the customer experience better. However, if you are not, so tech savvy, or you feel that you need the help, I think the best advice that I can give is to focus again on outlining the business processes that you have at the moment, and the customer facing processes that you have, and start from there instead of because I think there's a lot of people that will sell you on various nice, beautiful digitalization things that in the end have no real benefit to your business because it doesn't align with your specific processes. I think that is the danger of hiring people outside. So start with your processes, start with how you interact with the client, and then see where are the friction points and see how they can help you with that specifically.
All right, great. Christine, how about you? Do you have to hire anybody to help with the digital transformation of Brickhouse?
No, so I'm one of those tech noobs.
Yeah.
My background is law, nothing to do at all with food or tech. So it was a really sharp learning curve. And for us, it was more of, I think a lot of points where we digitalize at any point, it would have been a question where I was asking myself or asking the team, how do we solve this problem? So I mean, as an entrepreneur, you have to be aware of problems that arise. And if they repeat more than 2 or 3 times, you have to realize that it's a recurring problem. And that if you don't solve it and nip it at the bud, as you scale, it'll become a huge problem. So it was something that from very early on when we started the business, I've always had that kind of mindset, and I hated problems. I just wanted to eliminate them forever. So I spoke to a lot of friends who were quite tech savvy. You mix with the right crowd, and they will tell you little hints, and you have to go do your research. So I don't think there's a cheap solution in terms of free things being thrown at you. I think you have to use a lot of your own time and initiative to find it. But the solutions are cheap. So that's where your work will pay off when you actually invest the time.
Okay, thanks a lot, Christine. How about you, Howie? Did you have to hire anybody, or did you start like from the core team itself to start with the transformation?
No, I think it's good to get your hands dirty, and again, it might sound like it's daunting, but it is not. And you can definitely take baby steps along the way, and we are not talking about big digital transformation here, especially for small medium enterprises. You can really start, for example, using a cloud solutions like Google Suite, right, for your workspace, as well as sharing of documents and so on and so forth. Because I still find that some people, when they send files, they still send Word document file, and they start with version 1, and at the end they ended up with version 10, and these are physical, these are individual files. And all this can be done through the cloud, right, online, live, and so these are little steps, and I think services such as Google Suite has made it very easy for anyone to get started. And of course, for us here at Forward School, we started using e-signatures. And again, we have a lot of platforms out there like, HelloSign, like DocuSign, and so on and so forth. And, when we first started it, obviously there are people who ask us, are you sure, we can use e-signature? And the answer is yes. It's accepted in the law of court here in Malaysia. You can read it up, research it, and actually you can use e-signature, and it's so much easier, not just for you as well as those who you require them to sign. Yeah.
I feel that question. I mean, digitalizing company secretarial services where a lot of signatures are involved. We get this question all the time. So one of our marketing team members, she wrote a really good blog post on, the validity of e-signatures as well, to share with our customers. Like, yeah, it is, and with all the sources and such involved in there. Yeah, definitely. I feel that question. I think that's also, going back to my earlier point, where I think now, though, after the lockdown, a lot more people are accepting to explore that instead of just immediately rejecting it.
Yeah. So I think digitalization doesn't have to be expensive, and it can definitely start within your own teams. You just have to go ahead and start it, no matter how small, and it's completely possible. So kudos to all three of you for coming up with ideas and going after solutions to make your businesses adapt better to the pandemic. Okay, next up we have another question from Cian Yo. Hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Do people take more online courses during pandemic time compared to before the pandemic happened? I think this is a question for Howie.
Yeah, most definitely, right? If you look at the many platforms out there, right, like Coursera, and you have your Udemy, you have your Udacity, and we ourselves at Forward School do have short online courses as well. But I think it's not so much about the numbers or whether it has increased. It's definitely increased, but I think we here at Forward School is more interested in terms of how can you continue to have a quality experience even online, right? I think for platforms such as Coursera or Udemy, where they have pre-recorded videos learning, that's the learning mode. We see that the uptake can be very high, but at the same time, a lot of people drop off as well, right? So it's not so much about measuring the uptake of it, but I think we are as much interested in measuring whether someone, successfully completed. A lot of people start, if you have heard of this online content platform called Masterclass. I'm sure a lot of people subscribe to it because it's very catchy, it's very beneficial. You are attracted to it. But from a survey that we did, a lot of people, after the first video and that's it, right? They just couldn't really have the discipline to continue to go through it. Which is why I think here at Forward School, we are a believer in online live, which means that it's not pre-recorded, but we continue to engage you online, face to face. And with our learning management platform, we foresee that that experience can be much better.
All right, and there we have it. That is actually all the time that we have for today. If you have any more burning questions that we weren't able to address during this webinar, please feel free to email us at hello@omnihotline.my. So before you leave, just another reminder to fill up your information in the link provided in the description box below or within the live chat. We'll be sending you an ebook on how to digitalize your business. If you are interested in Omni Hotline mentioned in the webinar, feel free to visit our website www.omnihotline.my. And if you're interested in our super app for companies, AltHR, you can also visit us at www.althr.my. So thank you to all three of our speakers. It was a very great session. Hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoyed today's webinar. And for future webinar invitations, don't forget to check in via the link in the description box. We can send you exclusive invitations for our upcoming webinars. Thank you very much again for staying with us until the end. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you soon. Bye.